US's food supply is going to shit. Hey guys, thanks for tuning into my channel. Today we're going to be talking about the decreasing food value in the US. Most importantly, why the US's food supply is going to shit. So stay tuned. It's no lie that the food in the US has only been decreasing in value with the passing of time. From genetically modified foods to dangerous and poisonous herbicides being integrated into farming culture to the chemicals allowed in our food, despite most of them being banned in other countries. Look, it's no lie that the majority of our food is tainted, and tainted food gives health a whole new meaning. Because if you live in the US, you're not getting much nutritional value or as much nutritional value from the foods you're consuming as you may think you are. Even if you deem it as healthy, most produce is bathed in toxic herbicides. If you take a look at the nutritional label of a protein bar, you'll be surprised to see all of the unnecessary ingredients that are added. As a matter of fact, these unnecessary and harmful chemicals are added to the majority of the foods you see stocking up the shelves in the grocery stores. A lot of our foods are composed of chemicals, herbicides, and other unnecessary ingredients that are banned in other countries but somehow still allowed in the US. And I don't know if you've heard about the biggest company affecting our food supply. Yeah, it's Monsanto. Okay, so the conversation at hand specifically today is Monsanto. So, with that being said, the monstrously large sinister seed company Monsanto was founded in 1901 by John Francis Queeny. It was originally a chemical company, as Queeny had ties to the pharmaceutical industry prior to establishing Monsanto. The company started by Queeny had intentions of starting production of saccharin. I don't know if I butchered that, but it's basically an artificial sweetener that's 300 times sweeter than table sugar, but has no nutritional value whatsoever. So Monsanto started to gain popularity quickly, and one of the first affluent companies to purchase the product was actually none other than Coca-Cola. Monsanto's business dealings with huge corporations such as Coca-Cola led to Monsanto becoming extremely lucrative. Okay, so now that you know who Monsanto is and who it was started by, let's get into a little bit of its dark history. So Monsanto has a really dark history aside from being responsible for tainting the majority of the food supply in the US through genetically modified foods. They also played a very big role in creating the atomic bomb. Let's get into it. In 1943, a research and development project to produce polonium for World War II began, known as the Dayton Project. It was essentially a side quest to the Manhattan Project, whose purpose was for the development and research of nuclear weapons during World War II. But how does this connect to Monsanto? Well, since you asked, because Monsanto was a chemical company, General Groves, who was the director of the Manhattan Project, contacted Charles Allen Thomas, the vice president and technical director of Monsanto at the time. Charles was initiated to the Dayton Project to coordinate the polonium production and purification process. During this time, polonium existed only in theory, and it was unclear if sufficiently pure polonium could be manufactured. So the official Manhattan District history actually quoted that Monsanto's contribution in the Dayton Project was of incalculable value, and the later development of the initiator or urgent for the implosion bomb, and was perhaps essential to the success of that bomb. So, without Monsanto, would we have successfully built the bomb? Yes, probably, because they could have found somebody else. But the point is that Monsanto was involved in this atrocity. Atomic bomb and tainting the majority of the food supply aside, Monsanto was also a huge supplier of Agent Orange, which is a chemical herbicide and defoliant. It was used to destroy the Vietnamese food supply during the Vietnam War, but not to our surprise, it ended up having a much more sinister impact. After spreading 19 million gallons of Agent Orange over Vietnam during the course of the war, Agent Orange ended up harming and affecting generations of Vietnamese people with cancer and horrifically high birth deformities. So, get this, the veterans that had contact with Agent Orange during this period were also affected. So, the Vietnamese people weren't the only ones affected, and exposure to this toxic substance led to cancer and other medical issues. I mean, it caused a plethora of deformities and medical issues. And I'm going to show you guys this video that I found online on the Vietnamese people that have personally been affected after generations upon generations because of Agent Orange. So watch this.
Trong cuộc chiến tranh ở Việt Nam thì Mỹ đã rải chất độc da cam từ năm 1961 tới năm 1971. Hiện nay thì Việt Nam có khoảng 4.800.000 người là nạn nhân chất độc da cam. Thì cuộc sống của họ rất là khó khăn vì họ mang trên người những cái bệnh tật. Ở trung tâm này thì đang nuôi dưỡng 60 cháu. Thì đa phần khoảng 85% là các cháu không có bố mẹ nhìn nhận. Bỏ các cháu ở đây rồi họ không trở lại nữa. Sau khi chấm dứt chiến tranh rồi thì những người phụ nữ, những người đàn ông người ta mới kết hôn với nhau và họ bắt đầu sanh con. Khi sanh ra những đứa con bị quái thai thì người ta càng hiểu rõ hơn vấn đề chất độc da cam. Nhiều vùng của Việt Nam đã bị rải, trong đó thì những cái vùng mà bị rải trầm trọng nhất là những cái vùng biên giới Việt Nam, Lào, Campuchia và những cái vùng rừng núi ở ven biển, với mục đích là để cho những cái lá cây đó nó sẽ rụng và phía Mỹ sẽ tìm kiếm được cái đối phương để mà tiêu diệt. Nhưng đối với con người, khi cái chất độc này nó bị nhiễm vào con người rồi thì nó không thể ra được, mà nó sẽ hủy hoại cơ thể. Và những người mà bị nhiễm trực tiếp thì họ có thể bị những cái bệnh nan y rất là nặng nề như ung thư, tiểu đường và những cái bệnh lý ảnh hưởng tới thần kinh như là thoái hóa tế bào não và gây ra tình trạng là họ sẽ bị teo cơ. Và cái việc mà sinh ra quái thai này là do sự thay đổi gen và cái sự thay đổi gen này nó có thể thay đổi và truyền qua nhiều thế hệ.
Clearly, Monsanto has had its fair share of dealings in conjunction with the United States' past atrocities. Monsanto's involvement in creating the atomic bomb and distributing Agent Orange over Vietnam are only a few of the heinous acts that this company has committed. Given that it has since rebranded as a seed company, this affects the majority of the food supply within the United States. From its dark history to not permitting farmers to save its seeds due to the company's patents, Monsanto has adversely impacted the agricultural industry. The companies largely involved with the food industry will proceed to make healthier version of foods for another country because they need to abide by their rules and regulations, which means not using ingredients that have been banned. Sometimes the ingredients are changed. For example, a big bag of Lay's potato chips will have different ingredients in the US and in Europe to meet regulations and food compliance. This happens despite these same companies producing the same foods within the US, but with toxic ingredients because they have not been banned here. The list of ingredients that are banned in other countries outside of the US is astronomical. Some example of these banned ingredients are artificial colors like red dye number 40, herbicides, and food containing GMOs like sugar, beets, corn, etc. And in case you are unaware, Monsanto controls 23% of the global seed market. In the US, Monsanto owns 90% of soy, 85% of corn, and 95% of sugar beets, all genetically modified, of course. See, the thing is, within the US, several bills have been passed that allow these mega corporations and food suppliers to keep tainting food with chemicals. They use the chemicals in our food because it leads to a longer shelf life for the producer, which helps with profits. Huge corporations like Monsanto Bayer are putting toxic chemicals into our food because it's more beneficial than developing sustainable farming practices, and of course because it allows the company to continue earning high profits. It would be ideal for these huge corporate entities like Monsanto to shift to a more sustainable method of operating, but why would they do that? A huge corporate monster like Monsanto or other companies similar to it benefit from the way that we are currently doing things. Sure, they can change farming culture by modifying modern day practices, but why would they do that when bills are passed to protect companies like Monsanto? These huge corporate entities all play a role in a much more sinister problem. The tainted food provided by companies like Monsanto is making people sick. And that's feeding into the multi-billion-dollar industry that is Big Pharma. Funny enough, Monsanto was recently acquired by the huge company known as Bayer Pharmaceuticals back in 2018. That was just a very brief history of Monsanto and why the food value in the US is decreasing. But if you got anything out of this video, I encourage you to start reading food labels if you haven't already. Know what is going into your food and be aware of the unnecessary ingredients that are being added because you better believe they are damaging your health. Consume foods that are not processed, or at least try to limit your consumption of processed foods. Educate yourself on what you should be consuming more of, like fermented foods, prebiotic and probiotic foods. Spread the information so we can all, as a whole, stop contributing to these huge corporate entities. Regulate by choosing to consume foods that are good for you. Buy local foods. Grow your own food if you can. Companies like Monsanto Bayer are counting on your inadequacy and lack of knowledge to continue profiting off of making you, yes, you, the consumer, sick. Thank you guys for tuning into my channel. If you guys enjoyed this video, please leave a comment, a like, and make sure to hit that subscribe button. Tune in next time.